All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Contractor Secrets podcast. I have Chris Kiefer here with Boolean Software, really a software extraordinaire, and somebody that's passionate about helping business owners automate their processes and systemize their workflow. So him and I share a lot of similar passions. What's up, Chris? Thanks for joining me, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Tanner.
Yeah, of course. So tell me a little bit about your story, man. I know that you have an interesting background. Like you and I had a brief talk about kind of some things that you were working on. I'd love to hear a little bit about, for the listeners, what it is that you're passionate about and how you arrived in home service.
Yeah. Before I do that, I just want to say, and for anyone that's been listening to the Contractor Secrets for a while, I honestly, this is 100% genuine, Tanner. I don't know anybody else that like visibly I can see like the love and the passion and the support that you have for the painting world that as you. I genuinely am like, this guy is everywhere. He's on Facebook. Like you're doing everything. You're built a software. You're running like virtual conferences. You're literally like just pouring yourself out, and it's so evident. And yeah, I'm inspired by what you're doing, and I love that we were able to connect. And I think that Drip Jobs has a like a promising future because it's your passion for the topic and trying to make tech approachable, which is something that I share as well. But you are just on another level of like giving. And I even things like, you're giving away free softwares to people that are starting, or free, subscriptions for people that are starting up and everything. It's like, it's very obvious how much you care about the contractor world. And yeah, I'm appreciative to be on here and share some
Yeah, man.
of my own experience.
I just sat and soaked that up, man. I'm trying to do better at accepting compliments, and that's my heart to serve. And one thing that's interesting, man, is I remember what it was like, and I never forgot it. I remember what that was like starting out. Dude, it's challenging, man. This isn't easy. People, and I think it amplifies when people message me and they say, Tanner, I'm starting out, or I've been in business for this long, and I'm still paycheck to paycheck, and I'm thinking, man, I get stressed out, and I'm not paycheck to paycheck sometimes, and I know how that could be. So yeah, man, it's awesome to serve, and likewise, man,
Yeah.
I know that that's your heart too, and that's why you're here. So thank you. I'll take that, and now let's hear a little bit about you, man.
Yeah. So here's my quick bio. I grew up always just loved Legos, Connects, building blocks, typical nerdy kid stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone from my early as I can remember is like, oh, you're going to be an engineer. You're going to be an engineer. You're going to be an engineer.
They called you.
And so when I graduated from high school, it was like, you're going to college. What are you going to study? And I was like, engineering, I guess, So I got an engineering degree, tried it out in the real world, hated it. And I had an engineering degree and was like, I just went to college for 4 years. What am I going to do now? And I quit my first engineering job 6 months after starting it and started a video production company that evolved into a marketing agency, just your standard millennial marketing shop, all the website, video, PPC, right. Facebook, all the stuff, and we basically were just figuring it out as we went. We did that for 6 years. It was called Sky Studios. We did, it was good. It was super fun. We had 6 full-time employees plus myself, and we helped small businesses in Hillsboro, Oregon. And it was awesome, but I didn't have business experience at the time. I never worked for a larger company other than that 6 months at the engineering company. And so my wife and I wanted to start having kids. I looked for a job as a marketing director, and I had, this incredible 6 years of experience of trying to solve really hard problems for small businesses, which put me in a position to do well in like serving a company. And I stumbled across this company in Bend, Oregon called Webfoot, and it was amazing. I didn't know how long I was going to be in that role, but I loved the owners and the mission and the company. And I did that for 3 years. And while I was there, I was fortunate enough to be part of the leadership team that grew Webfoot painting, and Webfoot concrete coatings, another division, from this one location in Bend to 5 different locations across 4 different states. And my role there was the marketing director. So I had a paid advertising manager that I hired, and a SEO, like content strategist, and then a videographer. So we had a 4-person marketing team, all in-house. And it was a ton of fun. I learned a lot. I was
And
able to bring
Webfoot
a
is
lot
a
to the table.
painting business,
And
right?
yeah, Webfoot Painting is the original. Yep,
Yeah.
they're residential and commercial painting. And then Webfoot Concrete Coatings was another brand that like a concrete coating, garage floors, things like that. And they opened it up in Portland, Boise, Salt Lake City, Eugene, and
Love
then
that, man.
also in Bend as well.
I love that they
Since
invested
then,
in an in-house marketing team too. I mean, that's not common, and it's, smart on their part.
mhm, I always joke around that the first thing I told Gavin when he hired me was, I'm very interested in this. The first thing I'm going to do is hire a videographer. And then in a couple months, I'm probably going to hire some more marketing people. But
Yeah,
I just read They Ask You Answer. I don't know if you've heard that book by
heard of
Marcus
it.
Sheridan. Fantastic book.
Yeah.
And I loved the concept of leveraging the internet to answer the questions that your customers have in the best way possible. And
Yeah.
so if you look up Webfoot's website, it has some highly ranking content, especially in the concrete coating space. And we would spend, a month on one blog with like
Wow.
videos and graphics and research and interviews. And like we were trying to answer the best answer possible of like, how much does concrete coatings cost, for example. So yeah, that's what we did. I did that for 3 years. And then my passion was always automation and tech. So while at Webfoot, I automated a bunch of systems and used no code tools like Zapier and Make. And I, was they're part of a national consulting group called Nolan Consulting, and which is a fantastic painting like mastermind, basically. And I
Sure.
would tell other painting marketing managers of these other companies around the country, like, hey, this is what we're doing in Zapier. Like, check out, we just connected Paint Scout to this thing, or we're using Smart Sheets now, and here's how we're getting data to pass flow between different things. And they were like, this is awesome. So they would try, and then they'd come back and we're like, hey, it's not working like you said, or can you help us? And I realized that was one of the moments in my life of like, when you realize your zone of genius, like the
Yeah.
stuff that I just thought was second nature, like, yeah, it's no code. Like, how hard could it be? You just go in and follow the things, and other people were struggling with it. And I was like, man, I love this like puzzle piece of integrating things together. And so I started, I told, the owners of Webfoot, hey, I really love this automation thing, and I feel like there's a future here for me. And so I transitioned out of that role, helped hire the replacement for myself. And I've been doing my own consulting and implementation with painting companies specifically for the last 18 months.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What a story. And I think, man, it's interesting. I talk to all these different professionals that find their way into a painting business, and it's like, it usually finds you, man. And it's like, once you get into this world of house painting, you're like, holy smokes, this is a big market, man. Like, this isn't like,
Mm.
this is a big market, not only just from the sector of the manufacturers, but the client base and the verticals within painting, commercial, cabinets, epoxy, house painting. It's amazing, man. Let's talk about automation, because obviously that's something that's important to me. How important do you feel automation is going to be going forward? I mean, obviously we know that like automation's here to stay, but in terms of like workflow, most of the people listening to this are probably in or around that $1 million mark, maybe lower. So not quite as big as the companies that you're used to working with, maybe some, but the vast majority. In terms of like adopting workflows, like what do you see in terms of like how beneficial that is overall for the
Yeah.
single owner operator?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, I have my own podcast called The Pursuit of Purpose, and I interview entrepreneurs and business people and just people that I find interesting. I recently had a conversation with a guy who is running a solo, well, I'm going to come back to this story because that's the icing on the cake, in my opinion. But what he's doing as an individual is crazy. First, I want to say at the end of the day, automation, or what I call like clean data, just like having your system structured well, things are organized, there's not missing data, there's not incorrect data, but then it's all talking to each other. At like what it's doing for you is it's allowing you to do more with less. So you're going to be able to do more revenue with fewer employees, less overhead. That's what automation is at the end of the day. It also helps like optimize your marketing spend. So when you have your systems integrated well and you're getting analytics data from the various marketing tools that you're using, you're going to be able um, to like, do more with less
Yeah.
marketing dollars, just like you can do more with less
Or
overhead,
prevent spending
man
marketing
hours.
dollars in areas that aren't working.
Exactly. Yeah. And then reallocate to the ones that are or whatever.
Yeah.
But yes, that's all part of that automation in my mind is like, I'm just trying to get data flowing to and from applications in the best way possible. When you do this right, what can happen, there is this guy I interviewed recently who is a single owner. He has one employee, a project manager, and he runs a subcontractor model for painting. So he does the estimating, and then he hands off when he sells a job. He has a project manager.
Yep.
And next year he is going to do $2 million in revenue.
Amazing.
Completely automated systems. He's using Monday and some other no code tools, and he built all this stuff himself. So it's like he was talking to me because he needed help with like connecting a
Yeah.
Zapier thing from one thing to the next, and was like, oh yeah, try this thing, because there's a lot of nuances in those no code tools.
Yeah.
But the point that I want to make is that, like, how many people are out there that have all this overhead and the burden, and he's just like, this guy is crushing it. And he's like, I don't care. The vanity of like gross revenue does not affect him at all. He's trying to maximize his net profit at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And that's how he's building his model. He's like, what's the most I can take home with the least amount of stress of employees and people and whatnot. So I just thought that was like
Incredible.
absolutely remarkable. And that's an example of like your question, how necessary is this? I mean, I feel like it's like how much stress do you want to endure to make the amount of money you want to make?
Ooh, I love
Adding
that.
people is adding stress.
Yeah, it is.
It's like if you can do 300,000 net at $1 million,
Yeah,
or
that's better.
do
Yeah, it's better than
400,
doing three. Yeah,
500,000 at 2
100%.
million. It's better than having to
Optimize.
do 8 million to get the
Right.
same take home,
Yeah. It's interesting, man, because even for me early on, not running a business and not having any systems, this was pre-drip jobs. This was pre-Trade Thrive. This is just salesman Tanner understanding, hey, wait a minute. In every sales job that I've had, I had a place to at least organize my leads for the sole purpose of being able to call them when I need work or when I need to get a sale, right? So for me,
Yep.
at least I went into the business with the mindset of, dude, there's no way I can be a great salesperson unless I have an easy way to call leads. And what was interesting about this business, obviously, as I learned, is that, dude, there's so many stages people are in individually to where not only do I have a list of people that I need to call, I have to take into consideration where they are in the process of buying. So when I make the phone call, that phone call is personalized and it has some sort of meaning tied to it, right? The worst thing is calling someone saying, "Hey, are you ready to get that project done?" and them saying, "Tanner, I told you I have, I have to move. I have to move in." Or, "Tanner, I told you I'm waiting to get the roof on." Or, "Tanner, I told you." And what that did was it made it feel impersonal, like I only cared about the check. So when I started kind of understanding the
You're like,
game,
oh, sorry, I just got you mixed up with my 50 other
oh, I'm
prospects
so
that I'm
sorry. I
talking
remember
to.
you told me that, right? Like those little tiny things matter. And it's
Yeah.
almost like you don't want to come across as insincere. So when I started tracking this stuff, like, okay, Miss Jones has a roof going on, the call would be, "Miss Jones, just curious, are they still scheduled for the
How's that roof
22nd of
coming?
April?
Yeah.
Or how's that roof coming?" So
Yep.
something as simple as that, even from the prospecting perspective, just made a huge difference for me.
Oh, I would say that's the having a CRM is like, I know a lot of people will use Google Sheets to track stuff. And I've seen some pretty sophisticated Google Sheets. I love Google Sheets. I use it for lots of stuff.
Sure.
But there are features that Google Sheets can't touch.
Yep.
And some of those notes and things like that, tracking phone calls, emails to and from clients, text messages, like consolidating. That's what I feel like everyone says CRM, but if you
Yeah.
like, I don't know how many people know it's
Nah.
customer relationship management,
Yeah.
right? We're managing the entire relationship. So it's like,
Yeah.
I always think, imagine if like with your spouse, you only like remembered half the things like that they, or if you only remembered your in-person conversations and you
Yeah.
forgot all phone calls and texts that you sent back and forth to each other, like that relationship's not going to work very well. And the CRM is like a proper one, should consolidate all communication in a timeline so I can see, oh, so and so called them at this time, and then there was an email sent here, and we had an automated message go out here, and I can just skim and get caught up to speed on what's been happening. And then you can have those little, personalization moments where like, hey, did your dog's surgery go well? Like, oh my gosh, you remembered about my dog? It's like, of
Yeah.
course you
Yeah,
did.
man. Yeah,
So
of course. And at the end of the day, I mean, there's a certain level of, I guess, this is just about standing out. And I think there's still a huge opportunity for those that adopt automation and systems to stand out in a way, because so many people still don't have anything. One of the interesting things, I might have mentioned this to you when we talked a little bit before, was just something as simple as having a form for people to fill out when they call, as opposed to saying, "Hey, can you text me your information?" Or, "Hey, can you go to my website and fill out the form?" So think of the guy who's in the car picking up the phone, and this is a big problem. Like, this isn't like just like, oh, like, no, this is like 95% of all contractors who answer the phone either tell their customers to text them the information, they have to stop and write down the information, or they tell them that they're going to call them back and gather the information because they're too busy at the moment. And one of the problems we wanted to solve was, okay, well, first of all, we know this is an issue. Second of all, a CRM is only as good as the information in it. So we need to make it so easy for people to put their customers' information in. And we know that if you have to type anything, chances are you're not going to do it, or it won't be done right. So that's where our booking form comes in, where you could just open up the app, click the booking button, send it to the customer, and that customer has the form with every question that you would have asked anyway. And I think the apprehension is, well, if I hang up with the customer and I send them the form, what if they don't fill it out? Well, they're probably not a good customer, right? Would you agree with that, Chris?
yeah, they probably didn't want to work with you that bad anyways. It's like, what if they don't call me back if I leave them a voicemail? It's like, I don't know. But you don't, like, you can't control that. So
You can't
do what you
control that.
can control, which is call them and leave them a
Yeah.
voicemail,
Yeah. Well, what if they don't want to fill out the form? Okay, well, ask them, say, is this okay if I send you a form to fill out? No, I can't do that. Okay, great. Well, let me pull over and we'll fill it out together, and you have that form to fill out where
together.
7 automations kick in from the moment you hit submit. And that's kind of like our
Yes.
focus as a
So
business is,
I
how
want
many
to,
steps
that
can we?
is huge what you're saying right there. That right there is something not to be understated, that what you just described, and I talk about this frequently with clients, you are talking about a trade-off scenario, right? And I am such a big believer, there is no right system or wrong system to run your business. Every system has trade-offs. There's pros and cons. And a lot of times people think that I need the freedom to operate how I want to operate. And, you just can't put people in a box. And sometimes people don't want to do forms. And sometimes sometimes the question's not relevant or whatever. And there's all these excuses that I hear, but it's a classic line: structure or discipline, whatever. Structure gives you freedom. When you have the structure and the framework, it frees you up to like trust the process. It
Yeah.
frees up your mental space. So like when you define a process, and this is what I would say, number one problem painting business owners make. Let me say that again. The number one problem painting business owners make is that they do not plan or make what I call a blueprint of what they want automations to do in their business. Maybe they've literally never even defined in their head, like what happens.
Yeah.
Let's say that we didn't have any automation. Let's just walk through, what would you like to have happen when someone inquires for an estimate? What do you do? Like, oh, I put them in my phone. Okay, so you're putting them in your CRM, which is your phone. And then what happens? Like, oh, I have to go give them a quote. So I have to duplicate this quote in the template in Google Sheets, or I have to make a thing in Drip Jobs or my other CRM, whatever it is. But when you start like mapping out, these are the things that happen when someone says, I want an estimate. We pick a time together. So do you put it on your calendar? Yeah, I do. Do you send them an invite? Yes. Do you send them a confirmation or reminder? Yeah, I do. So it's like, would it be nice? Maybe you don't do that, but you'd like to. If you can start to map out what you want to have happen, now you have a process and a structure. And again, someone might say, well, that's too, constricting for how I like to run my business. And the reality is, like, you only have so much brain capacity. And
Yeah.
at some point, you will max that out. So you might as well free up your capacity with as many of those structured systems as you can, and then use the automation to plug it in. Because I always say, people want computers to do what they think. Like, I want the computer to read my mind and just know that it should send a text right there. And you have to break that down, because computers only automate processes. They can't automate chaos. You have to have like this is the flow of how people move through our business. And once we have that flow ironed out, now I can tell the computer, go do the same thing that I would have done
Yeah.
manually.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem, back to this, is people don't know what their process is. They've never defined it. They might
Yeah.
even have it relatively mapped out in their head, but they've never put it on paper to say, this is how a customer moves through my
Right.
business. And I would
Yeah.
say, to drive this home, is if you've ever worked or gone and had a great experience at Disney, or like the Four Seasons, all the big brands, it's like, I guarantee you, they know exactly, like, we are putting a photographer here, and there's a tree here, and there's a photo op there, and there's going to be
Yep.
candy and food and
Yeah.
popcorn. Like,
100%.
the whole thing is planned out to maximize the experience. And it's like, you should know, where are the pitfalls that customers usually get frustrated. It's like, what are we
Yeah.
going to do about that? How are we going to let them know, remind them, the courtesy text and stuff like that?
Right.
So yeah, I think it all comes down to process and mapping it out, and people don't take the time to do that. And they just start, either they don't automate, or they don't have a process, which is chaotic, or they try to do everything so manually that eventually their capacity reaches its limits and things start breaking.
I love the fact that we outline, like, hey man, like, that's the journey, right? I think that there's 3 customer journeys, right? You have the lead journey, you have the buyer's journey, and then you have the customer's journey. And I think all of us in contracting have the same, like, the same shell, right? From lead acquisition, we have to reach out, we've got to schedule them in, and then we do the estimate, and then we sell the job, and then we have some form of, final consultation, and then maybe we schedule the job, and then we start the job, and then we finish the job. Like, generally speaking, that's contracting in a nutshell. But what happens in between the initial interaction and the final goodbye is, that's unique to you. That's unique to what makes your company, and defining that and finding ways to automate that. That's that's the key.
I was just
I
showing
love
this
it.
up for people that are watching
Yeah,
video,
yeah, yeah.
on video. It doesn't really matter what it is. This is just, I use Miro. Miro's free.
Yeah, I love
I
Miro.
would recommend, like, get something, and you can see, like, every single thing that I do with a client is like, all right, let's map it
Yeah,
out. What's the process? How's this
yeah,
going to work? And this is a typical process flow of a painting company.
yeah,
And this is like I love illustrating this, and that is, the blue boxes are employee actions. So, like, employee pushes a button, fills a form, does something. The pink boxes are customer actions, and the diamonds are logic. So if this happens, do that. If this happens, do that. This is just a random client that I'm showing you, the process of a painting company and how work flows through their business. The red boxes, you want to guess what those are, Tanner?
those are. Man, it's hard to see, but I'll
Can
let
you
you.
read
I'll
the
let you
word
take it
there?
away. Yeah, it's hard to see.
The red boxes are automations. So the point with this is like every single box is a process in the business, right? It's like
Yeah.
a thing that needs to be filled out, a form that needs to be sent, an email that needs to be logged, something, right? But when you actually map this out, the crazy thing is that most painting companies have never mapped their process. And if they did, and it's not automated, you can see that this is a pretty tedious thing to have. Like someone in your business has to be doing this. But when you map it out and then you automate it, you start to realize that over 80% of your business could be automated
There's a lot
and
of
doesn't
red
have to be done by a
on this
person.
graph.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's
Yeah.
over 80% red. And then you just have a few little points where it's like customer needs
Yeah.
to do something or an employee needs to do something. And that's the other thing that I would say is that I think I'm a big advocate of like everybody wants like a robot that just does everything for them. And
Yeah.
that's a long ways away still. But like
We
having
get pretty close.
checkpoints and little forms. Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to have the little, you don't just want it running rampant and having it sending emails willy-nilly that don't make sense. Like there needs to be checks. It's like checkpoints. Like, hey, do you have all the information that we need to proceed? No, you don't. We'll fill these things out so we can send it over to the production pipeline and have that process begin. That type of stuff is critical. But again, it all comes back to you have to have a plan. You got to map it out before you start automating things.
Yeah, I think, man, that's so valuable. So let's kind of throw in a pitch here. You know, do you do this for companies? I mean, if they come to you and they want a really kind of spread of like where their pitfalls are and what they can automate?
Yeah. So my business, this is, I think potentially like when I told people I was doing this 18 months ago, I didn't know how long. I was like, oh, I'll help all the painting companies and then there won't be, I'll have to go to a different industry. This is just, it just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would say is that AI, I'm sure you're tied into this, but
Yeah.
AI like ChatGPT, if you haven't used it, download it and just look
Yeah.
into it. I've heard Tanner, you talk about it on past
Yeah.
podcasts of like using it to draft emails or create marketing campaigns or write estimates, quotes. Like it's not slowing down. Technology is going to move faster and faster and faster. And so my core belief is that businesses that don't have clean data are setting themselves up for failure because there's a great author, Dan Sullivan, who wrote a book called Who Not How or 10X is Easier Than 2X.
Yeah.
Fantastic books. He said recently on a podcast that in 10 years, there's going to be two types of businesses: the businesses that use AI and the businesses that are going out of business. Because it is literally like electrification happening that back in the 1900s. And AI is just a time saving mechanism and a time saving tool. And like I said, it allows you to do more with less. So since AI has come out and app and development has gotten easier and coding has gotten easier, more and more apps are getting developed all the time to solve very niche problems. And the number one thing that I would tell a painting contractor is if you have your system set up that are in the clean data structure, those new apps that are really cool, that are going to do something super unique that someone spent, a year developing, you'll just be able to tack that onto your system and it's rocket fuel to help you go even farther.
Yeah.
If you don't have a clean data structure in your business and apps aren't talking, those new apps are going to be like nice to haves or wishes, but you're not
Yeah.
going to be able to integrate it because there's not going to be data flow. So back to what we do, we work specifically with painting companies. And generally, I found that painting companies that have 2 full-time sales reps are usually at the place where this starts to like
Yeah.
working with us might start making sense. And the reason is just because of volume. We save about an hour of time per project that you do. So if you do 20 projects a month, it's 20 hours. If you do 100 projects a month, that's 100 hours of data entry that we're eliminating. So you can imagine as the business grows, larger companies, this is a much bigger pain point that they're looking to solve. So because we're not good fits for everybody, or if you're a solo painter, what I have done is I started a YouTube channel and I every single day post another video on some automation tip, trick, tutorial, how to integrate Zapier with different things. We
Love
just
that.
released one on drip jobs about connecting, like
Nice.
when a job in drip jobs is won, go do something. So
Yeah.
like send the data to this other app. But that type of stuff is what someone on a Facebook group just asked, hey, can you make an NPS survey that does X, Y, and Z? So I made a 5-part tutorial how you can
Yeah,
use
I
a
love that.
super cheap no-code tool called Airtable, and you can
Yep.
literally make your own Airtable NPS survey template, and it's all customized exactly to your liking. But anyways, the point is that yes, I work specifically with painting companies. I want to help as many people as possible, similar to you, Tanner. And
Yeah.
so I'm just like giving away as many ideas as I can. And if you want to go a little bit faster or have experts do it, reach out to us. We can help you. We can do a discovery call and see if we can help. Or if
Yeah.
you just are, a guy that likes to do things on your own, you can check out the YouTube channel, subscribe, and, follow along on the journey. Because my mission is to free people up to do what they love. That's what Boolean exists for. You
Yeah.
don't exist to fill out data and copy and paste stuff, and neither do your employees. And so I firmly believe that technology needs to be implemented to free people up from those boring, mundane tasks and allow them to work on more interesting problems, to have conversations with people, and spend time with their families, because that's what we all love doing. We don't want to be run by our business. We want to have our business serve our life. And
Yeah.
that's what we do at Boolean.
Oh man, I mean, there's so much there, man. I think automation in its core, man, is really designed to, to free that time up, man. And whatever you do with that time, obviously is the value that you'll get in relation to like the investment in automation. But here's the deal, man. I think there's times where even before having automated processes, here's kind of like a zoomed in example for you, Chris. Is I'm just starting out. I'm obviously every lead is important to me, but also every dollar spent is way more valuable than it is right now because there were so few of those dollars. So capitalizing on those leads obviously that was imperative, even though it is now. But again, just painting the picture here of someone just starting out. And let's say it's Saturday at 9:30 at night, and Angie Leads sends me a lead, and I get that notification on my phone. Okay, what's my initial thought? It's too late to email. It's too late to text message. So Sunday rolls around. Do I call on Sunday? Right? Maybe I want to be respectful. I don't want to call on Sunday. Monday rolls around. I get hit by everything that comes with a Monday. Right? And then I finally reach out to the customer at 11:30 or 12 o'clock, not knowing who they are, just knowing I got a request for some interior painting or whatever. And they don't answer the phone, Chris. And then I think to myself, okay, I got to remember to call that customer back. Then I get another lead that comes in. And okay, now I have to work
Yeah.
both of these leads. And that lead doesn't answer the phone. So I'm like, okay, I have 2 leads to follow up with. Then I get another one. Now I have 3. And it's like, okay, before all this, it was relying upon me and my memory to remember the different stages of these 3 leads. And then when I get one on the phone, you know what? I'm not so interested right now. And that lead cost me $90. And then why aren't you interested? Didn't you submit the request? So the where I'm getting at with this, Chris, is the stress that comes with feeling like you need to be everywhere at all times, especially with the way online lead generation works. The trade-off is utilizing automation in a way that alleviates that stress and pressures that a small business owner has. And there's no better feeling, and I will say this, scream it from the rooftops, when that lead comes in at 9:30 and at 9:35 I get an email that says the lead has booked an appointment without me having to do anything. And that is what automation does.
I love that. And yeah, I mean, I completely, and especially on the weekends, it's like you want to be, whether or not people say or acknowledge it, like if the business could operate at the level that you want it to operate, you would much rather be spending time watching a movie with your spouse or your kids than, stressing that you're wasting $90 on a lead that just came in because you're not doing the right action at the right time,
Yeah. Yeah. The pressures of running a business. Chris, how do we find you on YouTube, man? What is this YouTube channel? Tell us a little bit about that. I know some people are going to want to check out some of the things you got going on.
Yeah. So I think that it might be the most niche YouTube channel ever. It's like, it's not just a painting YouTube channel. It's literally like automation for painting businesses. And that's what if there's an app that exists in the painting world, we are going to have a video on there talking about integrating with it and whatnot. Like I said before, I was super excited to see that you guys expanded the capabilities of the Drip Jobs automation, or Zapier integration. I mean,
Yep.
I think that's going to serve people well.
Yeah,
But
that was
if
a big
you
one.
have ideas for this, you can look up Boolean Automation. So Boolean, Boolean Automation on YouTube.
Okay.
And yeah, there it says right at the top, we'll free you up to
Cool.
do what you love. And that's our channel. So I would say, obviously, there's a bunch of contact information there as well. But if someone wants to get in touch, my website is probably the easiest, and that's just chriskiefer.com.
Okay.
Chriskiefer.com.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I just like you. If someone wants to chat and you're curious, you need help with a Zap, or like, hey, I'm stuck here, I'll give 30 minutes of my time to anyone that wants to discuss and see, what you got going on. We don't charge unless there's actually, something of value that we can do. But we do discovery calls for free, and then if that makes sense, we'll put together a little proposal. And my goal is that every proposal that we put together you're going to see an ROI on that in 90 days. So regardless of the cost, because everything's custom, like, I'm a business guy, I understand the margins in the painting world, and we want to make sure that this is going to be justified to expend money on, because you're saving money, you're more efficient with your marketing spend, you don't have to hire another person, you close more deals, whatever it is. That's all part of how we think about it, is like, we need to get all these apps talking so you can leverage all the new tech that's coming down the pipe this year and in the coming years.
Love it. Fantastic. Chris, a pleasure, man. I think we need to have some more conversations because you and I have a lot in common. Real quick before we go, I want to hear a little bit about the Boolean review software. Tell me a little bit about this. What have you built, and how does it help contractors?
Yeah, so the Boolean review software was something back in my early days at Sky Studios. We built a review software to serve dentists, interestingly enough. Turns out that dental software has incredible barriers to entry because of HIPAA laws and whatnot. There's no open APIs. And so this software that I made did not work very well in the dental space, meaning because we couldn't automate anything. It was all manually driven by employee actions, which just goes to show you, back to this whole topic of automation. If you can't automate processes, it's like, what's the chance that a process in your business that's manual is followed on any given day?
Right.
I don't know, 80%, 70,
80%,
80%,
exactly,
80% of your well-run business.
yeah.
What's the chance of an automated process working?
100%.
100%,
Yeah.
like, maybe
Yeah.
there's a 0.0001% that something's down. But what happened was, when I got to Webfoot, I plugged in this review software at Webfoot, and within 2 years, because I was there for 3 years, within 2 years of launching this, Webfoot became the #1 painting company in the country based on Google reviews for quantity and quality.
Amazing.
So they had a 4.9. They had over 800 at the time, and they were the #1 rated painting company in the country.
Peace.
Now they've got over 1,000. There are other painting companies that are in this Nolan Consulting group that also use the Boolean software.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those things, like, I didn't set out when I built this 6 years ago to be in painting, but when I found myself in a painting marketing role, I customized this software to the extreme to be exactly what I would want for a painting business.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into some really crazy stuff. We ingest all the information. So like, if someone tacked this onto Drip Jobs, which we integrate with through Zapier, if someone tacked this onto Drip Jobs, we're ingesting all the project information from that project, feeding it to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is writing a draft of a review that a customer could leave with all the keywords that you want in that review, and mentioning the people's names, and sending a text. It's like, hey, to save you some time, we had AI write a draft of what you could leave. If you want, you can copy and paste this in, or customize it. And when I tell people that, that's just an example of like, it seems insane, but it's literally, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And by
Why
the
are we
way, because
expecting
again,
people to be
you'll see
great
this over and
writers?
over. Oh yeah. Like, and on our YouTube channel, if this sounds crazy, I literally showed you exactly how to do what I'm talking about with ChatGPT and Zapier. So like everything that like the software is like, hey, if you want to save time, you're not a tech person, you want us to do it, we can just turn on the system and our system's going to be able to do this. But that's another thing. Another little random thing, integrating with Company Cam. This is in beta right now. It's been a beast of a project to hit the consistency that we want. But the other thing that we're doing with our review software is we're connecting and integrating with Company Cam. So this integration is being built out right now. We think it's going to be done Q2, but it's going to ingest the photos of your Company Cam project and then find really good before and after photo and text that photo to the customer along with their review.
I
So
love
now
that.
guess what? They have a draft. They have a photo of their project. And guess what they're going to do when they leave the review for you on your website or on
Take
your
that
Google
photo.
page? They're going to
Yeah.
upload the photo of their project as well, which adds more SEO strength and credibility,
Yeah.
and validity to that
Or we
review.
can
Your
suggest
reviews are
a
going to have names.
we could suggest a Facebook post for them with
Exactly.
those photos, can't we?
100%. And you can, so that's the other thing is that our system can send people to Facebook, Google, Yelp, wherever you want. We just found that most people, it depends on the business model. If you do a lot of Facebook ads, you probably want more Facebook reviews than Google. So we can do that. But most businesses are going to get more value for a single review going to Google than to Facebook or Yelp or whatever. But yeah, this is an example of like the level of depth in any software vertical is just increasing. Like, oh, I have a review software or my system does that. It's like, I'm sure that there is some sort of email that gets sent out that, like, of course, but the depth that we're trying to solve and minimize friction for customers to make it super easy, super quick, and beneficial from an SEO perspective.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing on with the Boolean review software. So, like I said, I'm a person that comes from the place of abundance. It's like I literally tell you exactly how our software works, how everything inside it is operating. If you want to pay someone to just have it function, you can have us do it. If you want to set it up yourself, go look through our YouTube channel and I'll teach you how to automate the exact thing that you're paying us for.
That's super advanced stuff, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So connect it to drip jobs, right? Now that we can do that, that's exciting. And then send that data to Boolean and let them do some crazy automations to grow your business.
Yeah. And I'm committing to this. So it's probably going to be 2 weeks before it's live, but I will make a video explaining how to connect Boolean to drip jobs. Right now, the one that I set up was for this NPS survey thing, and it's going to be a similar process. But again, if any of you listening are like, "Hey, I've been trying to solve this integration," email me your question. I don't even you don't want to meet with me. Just say, "Hey, could you make a tutorial on this?" Like I'm literally like asking my team and my clients, "Hey, what other things do you guys want to learn how to do?"
Sure.
Because that's the beauty of the internet. It takes me 30 minutes or an hour to make a video that's on there forever to help hundreds or thousands of people. It's like just scaling your time that's what I'm all about. I just want to help the most people automate their business and free themselves up to do what they love.
Love it. ChrisKiefer.com. I'm going to link that in the description of the podcast. Thank you for your time, brother. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Tanner, and thank you for the community that you've built and the attention and just the value that's being poured into the marketplace. It's awesome. And we'll see whoever's going to PCA. We'll see you at the PCA here in the next month.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a good one this year, man. I'm excited. We'll see you there.